I always watch a title sequence.
Yeah.
Right.
Even E.T., which is literally just text on black and very little music, and it goes on for a while. It's literally just text on black. But I feel like a good title sequence will always set the scene, and sometimes even when there's nothing doing, it kind of brings you in a little bit. Yeah. It's kind of mesmerizing. I don't know why.
Shosh and I have been watching Only Murders in the Building, and I really like that opening title sequence. Lots of like 2D and 3D mixed in there with really clever colors and like the palette.
I can't quite remember the title. Is it like kind of like the Catch Me If You Can title sequence, that kind of vibe?
Kind of. It's sort of just the camera panning up a cartoon version of the building. Seeing all of the different
you see in the windows
apartments and people who live there, and then it sort of changes over to nighttime, and then there's like the red and blue of police sirens. Then it zooms down, you see the three of them standing there in silhouette, and then it goes through a 3D, the opening to the building complex, which is like a tunnel. So it goes through that in 3D and then ends on a 2D shot. And I think that's really, really cool. The music is great, and we never skip it.
Right.
And it's
here's a
good title
one.
sequence you don't want to skip.
Here's a good one, if we can digress for a moment. Your top 5 movie title sequences, and let's discount James Bond here because at some point we will do.
Oh, shy! I don't think I can do that on one leg.
I have a few in mind.
Can I think?
You can think. Do you want me to? I'll. Okay. So we just took a little bit of a break so that we could make lists. Now that we've digressed in an epic fashion.
Of a digression.
Yes.
I can't put any of these in a particular order.
Okay, so just you go ahead. Just tell
and
me,
I've got 6.
Tell me what you got.
So I got 7.
In no particular order.
So in no particular order, Speed. I like the opening sequence to Speed. We watched that a few weeks ago. Yeah. I really like that one, and mostly what I like about it is how they specifically built a set for that opening sequence.
Right,
you've got to appreciate the practical nature of that shit.
Okay.
Right? I like the opening sequence of Men in Black, mostly because there's nothing particularly visually spectacular going on, but it's like the music, and you're following the bug, and the way that it ends on the ending note, and then the bug explodes on the windshield, like that whole thing. Yeah. If we're talking about how a movie sequence, opening sequence pulls you in, right.
Music is also a big consideration here, by the way, because you could have text on black, like for example, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Is literally just text on black, unless you count the director's edition, which is a Starfield. But the music is amazing. It's an amazing track. But anyway, sorry, go
on. Superman.
Okay.
Opening sequence, very good.
Yeah,
Who could forget?
That's one off my list.
I've written down Catch Me If You Can, because that is
another one off my list.
Again, these are not like in any particular order. Fight Club.
Oh, Fight Club's a good
opening
one.
sequence.
That's a good one.
Casino Royale. Yes. I know you said no James Bond,
well,
but like it's really good.
I guess we're gonna. This is like of all time, I guess. But we'll when we do What's Our Bond Number, we eventually get round to that. So we'll probably do a top 5 James Bond title sequences where we're pitting them against each other. But anyway, go on. Yeah.
And my last one is X-Men 2.
X-Men 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the first one to use that
theme,
opening theme, and it's also, I think X-Men Days of Future Past is probably the most visually spectacular of those opening sequences using that music.
Right.
But I really like X-Men 2's opening.
Okay. So I've got Sweeney Todd.
Oh, that is a good one.
That is a very good one. Yeah. And that's like, it's not Danny Elfman doing the score, but it's kind of evokes a Danny Elfman kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And the visuals are just classic Tim Burton. North by Northwest, I love that opening, and I love the score by Bernard Herrmann. Panic Room kind of takes a leaf out of that with the sort of angled text, the sort of 3D space text sort of angled against buildings and things like that, and sort of motion tracked. I love the title sequence to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the David Fincher version.
Oh, with all the black, like...
With all the black, like,
stuff.
yeah, it's very... And it's a very James Bond like title sequence, probably kind of nudge and a wink to the fact that that Daniel Craig is in the movie. Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man, has an amazing score and amazing visuals. I could watch that title sequence over and over and over again. Another Tim Burton one, Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice's opening sequence.
Beetlejuice's opening sequence is flying over the town, and eventually it becomes the model. And you've got the score.
It's like very. I was listening to that over and over again on a loop while I was drawing that Beetlejuice art.
The title sequence for Tintin.
Yeah. Oh shit.
I love that.
That's a good one. Fuck.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Which is, it's literally just Michael Kamen's score over the tapestry. Mm-hmm. First of all, the tapestry is beautiful, and the score is, I think, probably Michael Kamen's best score, most adventurous score anyway.
Hum a few bars for the listener. Yeah.
I'm probably going to...
We should do that movie too.
Yeah, I'm probably going to even
cleared it.
Play it in the background there. Psycho, which is literally just white on black, but the text is kind of flying in from either side, and you've got Bernard Herrmann's score. American Psycho. Do you remember the American Psycho title sequence?
No.
So American Psycho begins
I've tried to cook a little.
In a restaurant. And the title sequence leading up to that is knives and red substance that sort of becomes like a kind of raspberry juice or something like that. And you see that they're basically like creating the nouvelle cuisine.
I wonder if Dexter was inspired by that.
Oh, for sure. Addams Family.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Yeah. These are all good. They're all very good. Yes, they're all very good.
So we've just completely gone off book here, but never mind.
Let's have an episode. What's our seat number?
Well, I've started talking in a northern accent because I'm ranting. And for some reason, ranting in a northern accent is better than talking in my normal accent. So fuck you and fuck everybody, and let's get on with the intro.
I'm trying to think who you sound like. Is it Bernard Cribbins?
Bernard Cribbins. Bernard Cribbins would not use that kind of language. It's rude, Mr. Faulty. I said rude.
No.
No. I want a Waldorf salad. No, I've mixed them up now.
Right. It's all right. It's a movie podcast. Yes. You don't have to know about TV shows. It's fine.
Hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number. It's October 2023 and it's now officially Spooky Dillo season. Now I am going in the red and it's fucking
You're
pissing
also
me
going northern while you're doing the intro. You noticed that? I swear it sounded like you said October.
It's October 2023 and it's now officially Spooky Dillo season. This is the part... So I have to stop.
Do it.
All right. This is the part where we make a pledge to you, the listener, to watch and review as many spooky movies in the lead up to Halloween as possible. It's also the part where we break that promise due to lack of time and or presence of children. I'm Johnny Gross. I'm not Northern, which is why if you're Northern and you listen to this, I apologise. So go down to the pub, have a pint, and calm your fucking tits off. What's going on?
What's really funny about that is that the listener's missing a sort of fundamental component of what you're doing.
Am I doing something visually with my face?
You are, and it's so funny. It's brilliant.
What is going on with my face?
You know how everybody sort of says to me, oh, Si, you say you have a sense of taste, but half of the taste is in the smell, and you're missing a fundamental dimension. The fundamental dimension that the listeners are missing by not seeing your face is that you are doing a weird thing with your teeth where somehow you're sticking them out more. Like, yeah, I know that. Like, look at my face. It's really funny.
I'm Johnny Gross, one half of
He's doing it again, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna dish that for the time being. I'm Johnny Gross, one half in an unholy duo, and with me as always is my brother, the other half of said unholy duo, in case that wasn't clear, the wee timorous beastie who was petrified of today's film in his youth and subsequently all the shitty things I did to exacerbate that fear, but no worries, he's all right now. It's Simon Gross.
I feel like that works on two levels. Duo and duo works quite well.
Oh, duo.
Duo. Yeah.
Duo.
It's time for movie news.
Movie news.
Welcome to the 422 News. I'm your anchor, Arthur Any Condoms. Today's top stories. Disaster hits toothpick convention as goat runs rampant, knocking toothpicks onto the floor. Onlookers were dismayed. That's our top story. In other news, an unfortunate mishap at the window factory after glassblower accidentally inhaled and was taken to hospital with stomach pain. And finally, all toilets have been stolen. I can't do this one. I don't think so. I don't think I can do this one with a straight face. And finally, all toilets have been stolen in local crime wave. Police are baffled as they apparently have nothing to go on.
Took me a minute. Took me a second.
Anyway, that's the news.
Oh, very good.
After several long consecutive days of negotiations, the Writers Guild of America and the labor group representing studios and streamers have reached a tentative deal on a new contract in a major development that could precipitate the end of a historic 146-day writer's strike. What do you think about that?
It's tentative, so I don't know how
stable it is.
Yeah.
Well, the wind is blowing in the direction of the strike being over and, sort of things resuming. I'm very interested to know what deal they've reached and whether or not they've come to any kind of agreement with regards to AI and regulation.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Well, I'm sure we'll find out as this news story progresses.
Yeah, so we'll see you back here in a few months for the next episode where that news will no longer be relevant.
Right.
Following up on it will be moot.
Right.
Lindsay Anderson Beer is set to offer a fresh, unique perspective on Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Delving into neglected fragments of the narrative and uncovering unexplored corners of the story. Like her previous work on Pet Sematary Bloodlines, Anderson Beer is committed to exploring uncharted narrative territories, asking unasked questions, and delving into the depths of the source material to offer a richer cinematic experience. I find it interesting that this item came up in my researching this morning, on the morning that we're doing a podcast on Sleepy Hollow.
Hold on a second. What's wrong with the current cinematic situation?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the movie. I don't think that's the point.
It's not faithful to the source material as much.
I think that there's room for adaptations of this story. Like, I don't think they're remaking this. This isn't a remake of Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow.
No, of course not.
All right? Or rebooting it in some way, or bringing back actors from to be the older generation.
My God,
like,
enough
that would
already
be terrible,
with that.
right?
Yeah.
So I really liked the Sleepy Hollow TV series.
That was interesting,
even though it was like very...
That was also
American,
very much not...
but it was very different.
Yeah,
right?
It was also very much not anywhere near to the source material.
Exactly.
And I have a question that's kind of relevant, but kind of not. When talking about faithfulness to the source material, do you think that Johnny Depp donning prosthetics to be a more accurate representation of the description of Ichabod Crane would have worked or not worked in the context of the movie that we got?
I don't think it would have worked. I think it would have been... well, it depends how big they went, because if he was sort of thinking of the Disney animated... Yeah,
well, he wanted
Ichabod
to ugly himself
Crane.
up. I read, there's also... I got the new 4K Steelbook, and it's got the story in it, and I've never actually sat down and read the story.
Oh, you haven't? You should.
Right, so I'm halfway through, but
cool.
But it's like, it's kind of a Steelbook with a digibook inside it. It's like a kind of... I'll show you in a second, but like it has the original story printed in it, and then you open it all the way up, and the disc is in the back. So it's interesting.
You have such cool stuff.
Well, I mean, it's called having nobody really regulating my money. But yeah, there's so he's described as like, long fingers, long nose, spindly frame, all that stuff. Like he's not good looking. He's not Johnny Depp. The interesting thing is that obviously we're going to talk about this later and we're going to get into it, but they talk about how Johnny Depp played him in a way that was unattractive personality wise rather than in look.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that the way that he plays Jack Sparrow is the same way that he plays Ichabod Crane, is that he skirts the line between a kind of cowardly comedic character versus a heroic character. Because if you look at him in the sort of the three-way axe fight, he's kind of heroic in that sequence. Like he sort of gets into it, and it's like, well, that's kind of out of character. But I mean, then you look at him, and it's like it's Johnny Depp. So I'm not sure that it necessarily. I mean, look, the one thing that I would have maybe done. This is a great
discussion to have in the middle of movie news.
Yes. Correct, but like I mean, I guess it would have been.
I'm being a dick. I'm sorry.
No, but I guess it would have been a case of like cast somebody else who's a little bit more.
Well, I think that if they would have done prosthetics
or something,
if they would have done prosthetics, they would have had to have done away with a lot of the action scenes in the movie.
Right.
Like if they were not if they were to have done prosthetics, if they would have been more faithful to the source material.
Right.
It couldn't be This is not an adaptation of that story. This is
Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, this is taking character names and atmosphere and sort of like the descriptiveness, and it's something where you can see Tim Burton sort of his creations living in that short story's descriptive nature, right?
Right.
It's when you kind of give Tim Burton the reins and you say, okay, but if you were to make a sort of really good time out of it,
right? And
I love that, and I like.
Does she say how she's going to approach it, or is it just that?
Well, it's just that really, but like she seems excited about it. So
okay, well, any adaptation of Sleepy Hollow, I'm there.
Me too, definitely.
I don't know. There's something about this story that's sort of like
Yeah,
it's not exactly the. I mean, I like the New England horror, or the New England Halloween-y stuff. The the sort of Salem witch trials and the hocus pocusy. The Vivitch, all that stuff. And all the Fear Street movies also. But like this is like a very similar kind of style, but obviously upstate New York and not New England. But yeah, I mean, like the entire sort of general atmosphere of the story just oozes what I love about Halloween. So, anyway, go on.
Also all the fog and the weird things that happen. We'll talk about all of this later. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Star Trek 4 is apparently still on the tracks, as is stated by writer and director once again Lindsay Anderson Beer, who is writing the project.
Oh, really?
And apparently directing.
Mm-hmm.
And in a final piece of Tim Burton news, Tim Burton's Beetlejuice 2 embraces traditional filmmaking techniques, capturing magic in camera like the original did in 1988. It's about authenticity and the essence of the cinematic experience. I'm really interested in that.
I have been burned by that before.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'll believe it when I see it, but there have been...
I would say that Star Wars across the board since Force Awakens have embraced that. There's a lot of CGI in those movies, but there's also a lot of puppetry. If you look at The Mandalorian, it's full of puppetry. Yeah. And the
Ahsoka as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but I'm saving it up so I can binge it.
Mm-hmm.
But and also the LED volume is really awesome. I can never tell. There's only a couple of shots here or there in The Mandalorian when I've gone that looks a little bit flat. But for the most part, it sucks me in and I can never tell. It's not like, like a blue screen or a green screen where you can always see the composite. So yeah, I mean, if he's going with that, because his last like 5 movies or so have been very CGI heavy, Miss Peregrine and Dumbo and all that stuff.
I hope he's gonna actually
and Wednesday,
sort of embrace the old techniques.
Me too. What would de-aging. What would be great is if he shot it on film. That would, it goes a long way. It really goes a long way. Yeah. No, I'm tentatively excited for this, but again, I told you, like, I watched Hocus Pocus 2 this week.
Yeah.
I also watched Hocus Pocus 1 because I just got a new 4K TV, so I'm watching all of my 4Ks.
I'm very excited. This is going to be my first experience with that.
Yeah, no, but you've got a 4K TV as well.
I do, but yours is bigger.
It's bigger, but also, I mean, you were able, when we watched Van Helsing, we watched it in HDR.
Yeah.
So I could see some of the HDR like effects coming through in the lightning and all that stuff. But I think that there's that your TV has certain limitations that mine
really
possibly doesn't have.
It's not a very expensive one, because once your child breaks a television, you go, right, these things are not long for this world.
I'm on edge 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when the kids are home.
So am I. Also, my youngest started throwing things in the living room, completely disregarding the no throwing things in the living room rule. Oh, my God. And he's doing it.
It hurts. It hurts, I'm telling you. My Jeff, we're going to call him, my son doesn't answer to his name. So I can stand there for 2 hours straight calling his name and he will not look up.
Maybe he doesn't identify with that name.
He doesn't identify with, no, so I started calling him Jeff. And he answers to Jeff. It's Jeff, Jeffrey, Jefferson, Jeff, all that stuff.
Oh my Lord.
And so I'll just call him Jeff for the purposes of the podcast. So Jeff put his hands on my James Bond collection this morning, the books. And No,
they'll crumble to dust.
Babs knows that the books hail from the 1950s or the 1960s. They are originals. And yeah,
those icky, greasy, yucky fingers.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, I'm on edge about my new LG CS. Thank you very much.
Anyway, that's movie news.
Movie news. As the title of our podcast is in the form of a question, we're going to once again play the Quickfire Movie Questions game.
Answer me quickly.
I'm going to give you 90 seconds on the clock, and you're going to answer lines of movie dialogue that are in the form of a question. Let's start the clock. And now. How much of your superiors explained to you, Constable?
I know the next bit.
I'll give you the first
I know the
word.
next bit. It's they get their heads severed from their baddies. That's
okay,
the second
well,
part.
I'll give you that.
What's the beginning bit?
Only that the three were slain in open ground.
Yeah, damn it. Only that fuck a dick. Yeah. No, but I do know this movie.
Okay, question number 2. What's this?
What's this? There's magic everywhere.
Well, I'll give you that. There's colour everywhere, but it doesn't matter. It could be any part of the song. What dost thou call that?
A child?
What blast?
The underground gas leak, genius.
I'll give you that. You got it. Underground gas vein, genius. Yeah. Don't you know that eggs are poison?
Poison indeed.
Correct. What would be your motive?
It's Scream.
It's Scream, yeah.
And he's playing with his earlobe. What does he say? Hang on. Pass.
It's the Millennium. Motives are incidental.
I was going to say irrelevant. All right, go.
Okay. Would you please tell the court why it is that you and your co-defendants took it upon yourselves to dig a very big hole in the middle of First Avenue?
Well, there are so many big holes in the middle of First Avenue, we really didn't think anyone would notice.
Correct. Ghostbusters 2. Where were the other drugs going?
I don't know. I swear to God.
Swear to me. Correct. What does the diary tell you that it doesn't tell us? And that is time. But
what
I've
would have
started,
been the
so
final line?
I've started, so I'll finish. What does the diary tell you that it doesn't tell us?
Is that Indiana Jones?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the
It's
next
Sean
line is.
Connery. They're in the tank.
I know what you're talking about.
The
I just
glove.
can't. No. I know what it is. I don't know the line.
It tells me that goose-stepping morons
There you
such as
go,
yourself should try reading books instead of
burning them. I was gonna. Damn! Always go with your gut side.
There's one more question.
Oh yeah. Okay.
One more.
Time's
So
up, Johnny.
might as
So I'm
well.
sorry.
Might as
Time's
well.
up.
Might as well.
Go on.
The heads are gone.
Taken by the headless horseman. Taken back to hell.
I'll give you that. Well done. Thank you very much. That was Answer Me Quickly.
Answer me quickly.
I didn't do too badly on that one.
You didn't do too badly at all. You got most of them. You want to see what we did? How much of your... Well, you got half a point on the first one. What's this? Yes. What dost thou call that? What blast? Eggs are poison. What would be your motive? You didn't get that one.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Holes on First Avenue. Where are the other drugs going? So you got, I would say out of 10, you got 8.5.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
I'll take it.
All right.
What are the balloons? Do I get any? Doubloons?
Well, you don't have to make the noise, Ewan. Let's talk about context. Today we're going to be viewing the film Sleepy Hollow. I'm imagining you have some things to say about this.
What about you?
What about me?
Yeah.
I remember seeing the trailer, and I watched it over and over and over again. And it's the shorter one.
That little Apple player. Remember that?
Yeah, Apple trailers. I used to go on there all the time. And there was the trailer that starts off with the decapitation of Jonathan Masbeth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a perfect trailer. I was really excited when I checked out the 4K disc and I found that the Blu-ray has that original trailer on it. It was the first thing I checked. But I just remember watching that over and over and over again. I don't think I got to see it in the cinema. It was 1999, so I got my first DVD player not long before that, and it was one of the first DVDs I got. And I was really excited, and I just watched it over and over and over again.
I have very similar context.
Except yours involves pillows and hiding behind them.
Yeah. Okay, so I remember the Apple trailer.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that over and over and over again with you.
How old were you at this point?
I was young.
Oh, you were like 8?
In England, yeah.
Yeah.
The first time that I watched the movie, I was how old? 12? I didn't watch a lot of horror movies. It wasn't really, my thing. And I couldn't appreciate it then for the way that I appreciate it now. I just think it was the most intense sort of experience for me as also being
as a 12-year-old
still rather frightened of things.
Right.
And also I kind of think this was my first like horror experience really.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a very intense experience for me. And I remember throwing up afterwards, and I couldn't explain why, like whether it was the heads, it was the blood, it was the whole thing, the atmosphere, all of it together. And then I had nightmares about it. I don't remember you being difficult about it either. I don't think that you were... I don't think you were nasty to me
when we were in
it.
England, we had the VHS of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, right?
Did we? No, we didn't.
I think we did.
Go on.
We had the VHS, and you watched it, and you were scared of it, and we had to. Was it that, or was it a different? Was it not? Wasn't the Disney one?
It was a CG.
It wasn't the Disney one.
It was if you watch it now, it's on YouTube. It's a really crappy CG retelling of the original story.
Right.
But
we had it on VHS.
That was also like they weren't. That wasn't for kids. Right. I think parents, mother, someone who bought it for me. I don't remember. Did I ask for it? I need to be reminded. If you remember, Babs, let me know.
Headless Horseman. I mean, it's not really.
I don't remember how that got onto the shelf. I do remember when we were moving, and we sold it or something, and I was like, oh god, it's gone. But anyway, so later on when I started appreciating this sort of thing, I really love this movie now.
We are going to go and watch Sleepy Hollow in 4K Dolby Vision with my new soundbar and my new 4K TV 65-inch.
I am Constable Ichabod Crane, sent from New York to investigate murder in Sleepy Hollow.
How much of your superiors explained to you?
Only that the 3 were slain in open ground, their heads severed from their bodies.
Taken by the Headless Horseman, taken back to hell.
Murder! The Horseman's killed again!
The assassin is a man of flesh and blood, and I will discover him.
Are you so certain of everything?
Soda.
Oh shit, you're recording that. Sorry. Shit.
So, Sleepy Hollow.
He really is in it for about 30 seconds.
So, first of all, I want to ask you, how was your experience?
Oh my god, that is an experience though. Like, the TV's massive, the sound bar is incredible. I could feel gunshots like vibrating the couch. It was great. Yeah, also just you can see all of the effects really, really clearly, which is really nice. Not in a, this is obviously an effect kind of way, but like the layers, like, you could see in the Blu-ray as well, that, when he chops off a head, the wound kind of smokes afterwards, like there's steam coming up as it's cauterized, but you could really see it here. Like it was really, really clear.
The thing I noticed, like right at the beginning, was in Van Garrett's coach. That like it's dark, but you can see the detail on the velvety like walls of the coach.
All the textures in the film really pop.
Yeah,
like the even something as natural as the leaves on the ground like really pop. But the brickwork's great. The way that you have when he comes into the town, you see all the different houses, and you can really see like the grime and the sort of chipped painted wood. Right. It looks really layered. It's great.
I like the sort of barbaric 19th century New York setting. Yeah, burn it. It's very reminiscent of London.
Okay.
In the 1880s, 1890s, whatever it was. So if it hadn't have said New York at the beginning, I wouldn't have known it was New York. Yeah. The cobbled streets and all the British actors in it and all that stuff. Don't think that these pills are worth millions. They're not. Stop fucking saying
that was him. I know. I noticed
that
he has one say. He goes, "With pleasure." And he just sort of walks away.
Burn it.
Yes, sir.
It's a Duke from Layer Cake.
Yes.
Don't you fucking talk to me like I'm some kind of mug. Just don't you fucking talk to me like
Duke,
that.
don't take this personally. It's business. Now, you want to know how much these pills are worth?
Yes, fucking please.
And obviously, Alan Armstrong.
Just a moment, if I may. We do not yet know the cause of death.
When you find them in the river, cause of death is drowning.
Whose son, Joe Armstrong, plays Will Scarlet in the Robin Hood... What? In the Robin Hood BBC adaptation?
Oh.
Yeah.
How's the music for that go?
How
do you remember that?
How do I remember that? Because I loved it. I used to watch it every week.
We do not like.
Oh, this is Jonas Armstrong. He's talking about. Yeah, there we go.
Oh God!
Another northern accent. I love the guy grinning in the.
I
torture
had to tell you to stop it because you were doing the accent while people were talking. I was like, "Stop it!"
Because one of the what's his face?
The redhead.
The redhead.
Some of us
father.
have to work. He was a patrol officer.
Gunpowder. His name's Gunpowder. Come on, giddy up, Gunpowder.
His name's Gunpowder.
He should do just fine. Just kidding. Thank you.
I don't know. Anyway, at the beginning of the movie, when they're in the courthouse, he's having this whole conversation with Christopher Lee, Johnny Depp, and you got this guy out of focus in the background in a torture device, grinning the entire way through. Nothing else to say about that. Just wondering why.
No, I have a question about that sequence.
Yes.
So Christopher Lee says to him that he has to go solve the murder and come back with the murderer.
Yes.
You will take these experimentations of yours to Sleepy Hollow, and there you will detect the murderer. Bring him here to face our good justice.
He doesn't do that. How is he not going to get fired? Like, it's supposedly a happy ending, and he's like, and home is this way. But, what happens when he goes to work the next day?
I'll tell you what it is. It's the beginning of the movie, and then at the end of the movie, you're supposed to have forgotten that.
Yeah.
So
it's a little bit interesting, though, isn't it?
I mean, it happens all the time, I feel.
Yeah.
You know that whole thing on the pitch meeting? The guy says, like...
Barely an inconvenience.
No, so the guy says, why is this, and this? And the other guy goes, so the movie can happen.
Right. Are we not going to come back to that? No, we're not going to mention that again.
That's what we're going with. So I think that there's no one better to like set the scene than Christopher Lee with that. No, well, I mean Danny Elfman, but we'll get there in a sec. But Christopher Lee with that voice.
It is you,
Ichabod Crane.
Remember, it is you, Ichabod Crane, who is now put to the test.
I just think that with that voice and with those beady eyes,
with the wings behind him.
Yes, just a wonderful way to set the scene. You had some comments about the title sequence. Title sequence is very long, but never feels boring.
So what I've written about it is perfect score once again, Mr. Elfman.
Yes.
What a way to set the tone. Like, it's always amazing to me how every single movie that Tim Burton does, and he, enlists Danny Elfman.
There's always an overture.
It's so perfect to to the visual tone and everything that's going on screen. It's such a great... There's a reason they work together.
Yeah, there's a reason why they work together for, like, what is it, 35 years now or something like that?
Yeah, and it's
maybe
great.
Maybe more. What are we talking about? The 85, I think, they did Pee-wee's Big Adventure together?
That was the first one they did?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a lot of...
it's a lot of
it's almost
movies.
40 years. It's almost 40 years.
So, you know,
almost
I
my
love
entire
that.
life.
But there was something about the opening sequence with the titles that you also pointed out, but I've never noticed before, is that the letters kind of linger.
They kind of interact with the environment.
Yeah.
There's a moment where they're sort of glowing through the light rays in the fog.
That was a shot that really surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really it was something, because you have this beautiful shot of the forest and the light rays coming through the trees naturally. And then they enhance that with like the light rays also shining through the text.
Yeah.
And it's a visual effect, right? But it's so well matched to what's behind it.
And also you've got the autumn leaves falling and the letters fall into the...
It's gorgeous. It's such a simple title sequence.
Yeah.
But it's so sort of...
It's all scenery, basically. Scenery and text.
Cleverly, like melded with the music and the visual.
The final shot of the title sequence, by the way, with the path leading up to the Van Tassel mansion, which is like some kind of like gothic horror cliche with the scarecrow in the foreground, and you know, like that you know,
the scarecrow
the
whose head
clouds.
is on fire.
Right, yeah. It's just brilliant. I mean, it's
ominous.
Everything that I see in this movie that looks like a cliche
feels right at home.
Feels right at home, and also wonderfully repurposed by Tim Burton into a sort of Tim Burton style, which in itself became a cliche after a while. I just think it's the design of this movie is probably my favorite thing about it.
Yeah. My next one is about the story scene where they're all sitting in the room telling him about the Hessian.
Yeah,
and
all those powerhouse actors in one room.
Yeah, it's so
and the
good.
story being told by the dulcet tones of Michael Gambon.
The horseman was a Hessian mercenary, sent to these shores by German princes to keep Americans under the yoke of England. But unlike his compatriots, who came for money, the horseman came for love of carnage. When battle was joined, there you'd find him. He rode a giant black steed named Daredevil. He was infamous for riding his horse hard into battle, chopping off heads at full gallop. He'd filed his teeth down to sharp points to add to the ferocity of his appearance.
You've got Alfred Gough in there, you know, taken by the headless horse. Like all of these characters, Jeffrey Jones and Ian McDiarmid and Richard Griffith. Why? Because
why is it so hard for you?
Because of Johan Grufford.
Johan Grufford, I know, but it's
like Johan
Griffith. It's Johan.
Johan. Oh, don't get me started talking Welsh. Right, we were talking about bed knobs and broomsticks the other day.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if you could turn that into a
horror movie? I got the children you ordered, Miss Price. He just come down from London.
So I really love that scene. I love the sort of horror around a campfire sort of vibe to it. I think that's really cool. And then I don't know how much longer after this. Murder! The horseman's killed again!
Murder! The horseman's killed again!
That guy, give him a fucking Oscar.
All right, there we go. That's extra of the movie. Round of applause. He wins the award.
Oh yeah, definitely him or the Duke.
The Duke.
from Layer Cake.
Right.
With pleasure.
I found Christina Ricci to be probably the weakest part of the entire
Indeed.
film. I find that
I grizzle with you.
Her delivery is very stilted, and I find that their relationship is also not particularly believable or anything
necessary.
I can find any empathy with.
When my father brought us to Sleepy Hollow, Van Garrett set him up with an acre and a broken-down cottage. My father worked hard for his family and prospered and built this house, and I owe my happiness to him.
fast forwarding to the end of the movie for a sec before I forget. She is the rightful heir to Sleepy Hollow, basically, to the entire town. And she just basically buggers off to New York with Ichabod Crane and young Masbeth.
Well, because 1990s and 2000s Hollywood, he has to get the girl, and she has to live with him at the end. They have to get married, or they have to be together. It has to end. We want it happy. We want to keep it snappy.
Really, you think that's it? Because
I don't think that there's any particular merit to their relationship other than having a token romance.
Yeah, obviously,
right. And so that I think
she was the hot thing of the time.
That's the explanation, though, in my opinion. Like it's the only reason for her to up and leave is nothing motivated by plot.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing there that like.
Because she stands to inherit a rather sizable estate.
Oh, so maybe that's how Ichabod continues his living. He gets fired, but he lives off of her fortune. There you go. There's your answer.
Yes.
I love the supernatural mystery in this movie.
Are you talking about the whodunit?
Yeah, I'm talking about the whodunit that's wrapped in like this magic, right? I really like that, and I like the fact that, you know, Ichabod Crane has to come to terms with the fact that he is dealing with something supernatural,
something
and then
that he can't rationalize.
Yeah, and then he's like, but there is someone human behind all of it, right? Someone pulling the strings. But it's also wrapped in this, at times, really frightening package, right? You know, like, I think that sequence where the family gets killed is probably the most disturbing sequence in the whole film.
Yeah, definitely.
Because first of all, it starts with the faces in the fire, which were really clear on this one. And it's so subtle. It's such a subtle effect. It's such a subtle shot, but it's like really otherworldly.
Yeah.
The mother's head rolling along the floor and sort of landing with her eyes crack. Looking through the crack of the floorboard is like,
and the sun is like 5-year-old son is under the floorboards and can see her eyes.
It's really like because you kind of put yourself in his shoes and you're also thinking about, as an adult, like I don't want my child to see that sort of thing. It always comes back to that, right. And then they kind of you always like to use the phrase pulling at the audience's pigtails, right? When you're talking about like Tim Burton or whatever, or Sam Raimi. Instead, so you've seen the shot of the eyes through the floorboard crack, and then when the horseman goes to pick it up again, it right back to that shot again as the eyes are lifted away from the floorboards. So creepy, and like I was kind of like, no, I'm done. I don't want to see it again. so that was I've written here, yikes, at the end of that paragraph that I wrote about it.
It's pretty horrific, and also Burton doesn't spare the kid.
No, he doesn't. Which is I really appreciate that.
Which is another thing that's interesting because. Look, first of all, in terms of the censors, they wanted to give them a higher rating because originally that shot where you see just the end of him stuffing the head into the bag.
The drawstring on the bag.
Yeah. Originally that was longer and you saw the child's head going into and the censors thought that was a little bit too much. So he quite rightly scaled that back a little bit. But the question I have is there's a reasoning behind each and every one of the killings and
because they all sit somewhere along that family tree.
Right. Why did he go back for the kid?
It's all descendants, right? There has to be no one left except for Miranda Richardson.
Mm-hmm. So she ordered him to go back for the kid?
What?
So she ordered him to go back for the kid?
She probably ordered him to kill the whole family. I have a different question. Okay. If Tim Burton was able to kill a kid, which is was not necessarily the done thing. It's still not. Like, I think that there are a few movies where a kid gets killed, right?
The only reason to do that is to sort of underline the fact that nobody's safe.
Yeah. The opening of A Quiet Place, we've mentioned that before.
Man.
That is to...
That wrecked me, that bit.
It's also the feeling of nobody being safe, but also the pain and desperation of this world, right? Mm-hmm. Like I always try and I had someone saying to me, I'm watching The Last of Us and it's too violent and it's too, and this is someone who's my age. I was like, this world is ravaged, and it's a different world, and it's more desperate, and it's more, you know, the raw feelings are all brought up to the surface. So, you know, just as you have like horrible people who will do horrible things, there's also these incredibly loving moments, right? How love and you know, Neil Druckmann's talked about it as well. Like, you know, he made the game and also worked on the TV show. That it's not about hate, it's about love, right?
Love in desperate circumstances.
Yeah. And about the cycle of violence. So you know, now kind of we see a lot more, like, you know, I'm not happy about saying it, but dead children, right?
Right.
If in this movie he was able to do that, why did we need to have the token romance where the hero gets that? Like that, why is that following the normal path?
Right.
Because I don't feel like that was a natural trajectory for either
I think
of
the perhaps the wires from one to the other are disconnected in Burton's head. Because, maybe, yeah. I mean, look, I find that his ability to do normative romance, and when I say normative, I'm not talking about, you know, man and woman and nuclear family. I'm talking about just depicting love. I think that in order for him to really, like, sort of portray a relationship, it has to be dysfunctional and screwed up. Like, for example, Batman and Catwoman. You know, like you don't really buy Bruce Wayne's relationship with Vicky Vale, but I can totally buy Bruce Wayne's relationship with Selena Kyle. Yeah. And they're doomed from the offset. If it's not something that he's comfortable with, doing something a straight A to B romance, like
why is it there?
Why is it there? Exactly. Yeah. I think that in terms of having the Horseman go back and get the child. I think it's also like something to do with the pigtail pulling. It's like, you know, you
think, the child's going to be okay. He's going to be scarred.
Right. It's the audience going, oh shit. Oh God, how far is he going to go? He's not going to stop. He's relentless. You know, like he's. And I'm not talking about the Horseman. I'm talking about Tim Burton. So
I thought you meant the Horseman.
Right.
Because I was thinking in the movie thus far they've, you know, shown that he doesn't stop.
Right.
Right. He keeps going.
Right. But then, you know, there's the whole thing with Brom Bones.
Yeah, and he gets bisected, no?
Right. Which
a lot of fun.
Yeah, I find that Casper Van Dien is not the greatest actor in the world.
And also not the
And who are you, friend? We have not heard your name yet.
I have not said it. Excuse me.
You need some manners.
He's not the greatest, but like I feel that.
Why do you think he was cast? Because he was the hot thing after
Starship Troopers. Yeah,
you reckon?
Yeah, but in Starship Troopers, he's supposed to be hammy. That whole movie has like an air of hamminess to it that Paul Verhoeven baked into it, in the same way that he did with RoboCop and Basic Instinct, and you know he's got this kind of schlocky kind of style that's kind of melodramatic in a way that I think is part of his sort of grand plan when he makes a movie. So here I find him to be just a little bit out of place. It needed to be somebody who could make an impression in that role.
They just should have continued with the high caliber British actors,
right? And the other thing is that he doesn't really make an impression in terms of his purpose in the movie. His purpose in the movie is, well, there's two purposes. One is to be jealous and there's one shot that shows that, which is when Katrina. No, when Katrina. Well, there's two shots. Then Katrina kisses Ichabod at the party.
Yeah.
The Piketty Witch. So, and then you see them part, and then the focus shifts to Casper Van Dien, and he's like looking at them like,
how dare you? Even though that's the aim of the game,
right?
And then
he puts his arm around her at the funeral at Jonathan Masbeth's funeral,
and looks at Ichabod like, mine.
His real purpose is to be the Brom of the short story, to kind of provide a continuity between the short story and the movie, and also the Ichabod and Mr. Toad, the animated movie, is to be the sort of red herring fake out of the Headless Horseman and throw the pumpkin.
Yeah.
But then when he gets bisected, I mean, it's just a really cool gore moment for anybody who loves a good bit of gore in their movies.
Once Miranda Richardson sort of reveals herself, and she says, "My family name was Archer." Right, there's a scene earlier in the movie where Ichabod Crane and Katrina go into the woods and they look
go
at
to her old
the
house.
remains of her old house.
Right.
And there's like an archer etched into the metal under the fireplace or something.
Oh, look. See? Carved into the flower back? The archer. I'd forgotten it. This was from long before we lived here. Who are you?
My family name was Archer.
The Archer.
And she goes, Archer? The Archer? And then it flashes back to that fireplace.
I would imagine, because I went, yeah, that's weird. And then I kind of got the point as she was talking.
She used to live there, and then they were kicked out.
And then they kicked them out. And I'm imagining that the Archer is their family crest.
Ah.
And like the Van Garretts is the windmill.
Oh. Right. Okay.
The Van Garrett had the Flower Empire, So they kicked them out of the house, and then they're living in the woods. The two sisters, and she becomes a witch. They both become witches.
One slightly more successful than the other.
Right. Well, I mean, they both ended up in the shit, to be honest. Ichabod's father in the last flashback, he walks towards the camera, and then as he's walking away from the camera, he seems to be without a head. I've always wondered about that. What is that all about?
I think that I would sort of connect it with bringing evil to justice, like murder. Like it's the Headless Horseman in the movie is the conduit for murder, right? And death.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that until he met the Horseman, Ichabod probably saw crime and death as being wholly connected with his father. Probably his need to be a constable that's, solving crimes. And, in that moment where they switch places, he then sees this kind of like mix between his father and the Headless Horseman.
I always wondered about that, though, because I always sort of rationalized it in the past as he's just really hunched over. But now on this transfer, it really looks like he's not got a head.
Yeah, no, it's
and
a
also
purpose,
it's just, I think,
symbolic moment,
right? It is, and if I'm not mistaken, it comes right after he gets stabbed after the fight with Brom Bones. That flashback.
I think so.
So he's probably hallucinating, and it's the fever that the two worlds kind of collide.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So there you go. That's a question that I've now had answered.
Well, I mean, listen, that's just my answer, right? It's I think it left it open to interpretation entirely. Like it could be that the real world horrors that he's facing are intermingling with his past trauma, and it's sort of triggering him, right? Like that's another explanation for it.
Those flashbacks are wonderful. Also, the music
horrible.
There's a great mesh of like that sort of wistful, dreamy nostalgia with the leaves and the blossoms and her and Lisa Marie floating in the air, and then you've got the sort of blood drenched horror of the reality of his past, and I think it's a precursor to Big Fish that came like a few years later, but it just also shows that, aside from his usual repertoire, that he had some really wonderful like artistry to him that he's since kind of lost a little bit. But like really creating these beautiful dreamy images.
He's pinning all of his hopes on CG.
Not just that. I think also he's kind of sold himself a little bit to the corporations. Like this movie was the last movie he made before he kind of there was a turn at the turn of the century, if you will.
Like
after Planet of the Apes, he started making movies. There was Willy Wonka, there was Alice in Wonderland, there was Dumbo, there was Miss Peregrine, which was also like it was an adaptation of a book, but very much kind of.
I liked Miss Peregrine.
I didn't like it. I thought that the acting was pretty awful. I thought there was too much CGI, and again, I don't like it when Burton doesn't shoot on film. I think that his style needs the grittiness of grain and the dreamlike quality of film stock. And to me, like digital kind of sanitizes his look, makes it kind of ugly to me. I just think that with the exception of Sweeney Todd and Big Fish, he made like a lot of sort of cynical movies after this one. What do you think of the when everything all goes to shit in the church scene? there's just chaos.
Yeah.
And the inventiveness of the horseman not being able to cross the threshold and then spearing BALTUS Van Tassel, played by Michael Gambon, with the picket of the fence.
Spike.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an answer that's more interesting than I loved it. It's like...
That's valid.
No, it's valid. It's just not particularly interesting for a podcast. There's something very, like you said, sort of like panicky about it, right?
Yeah.
I really like the shot from the trailer that we mentioned earlier where, you know, the lightning flashes and it kind of zooms in on Ichabod as they close the doors.
As he turns around,
and then he turns around again, and then we see everything from his perspective of everybody sort of like panicking and running.
Going nuts.
What I really like about that scene is how quickly all three of them die.
Right.
Like there's, you know, one of them, Ian McDiarmid, gets whacked on the head.
Enough have died already. It's time to confess our sins.
What is it that you know?
Your 4 friends played you false. We were devilishly possessed by one who...
Right.
Then Michael Gambon shoots
Jeffrey Jones,
yes.
And then Michael Gambon
gets skewered.
There's a conspiracy here, and I will seek it out.
Skewered. One sympathizes.
It's really well put together. I can't answer your question without just saying I loved it.
Yeah. We got all of Miranda Richardson's confession.
And then just the other day, that silly midwife, Killian, told me the widow had told her a big secret. And she told me this right in front of her husband. What a goose! So, another little job for the horseman.
She's not a great actress.
I mean, she is a great actress. I think she's been given carte blanche to ham it up. And she's over hamming it up.
I find that whenever someone is doing the evil voice and they're doing the confession thing.
She's doing the evil voice. No.
Too late. We've all heard you doing the evil voice.
And the 2 shades of lipstick were identical, which means that only you, Mademoiselle Brown, could have placed a cigarette case underneath the body.
Surely, Monsieur Varron, you're not accusing me of murder.
Indeed I am, mademoiselle. Murder of the most treacherous and the most ingenious.
Oh, heavens.
Surely you can't mean that, Varron.
It is of the most regrettable that I do.
Is this true, Susan?
Yes, Freddie. I'm very much afraid that it is. Yes, I did kill Lord Carnington.
My God, Varron, she's doing the evil voice.
Indeed, I always know I have got them when they start doing the evil voice.
What?
Yes. Once again, I had no evidence. It has been a hell of a week, to be honest with you. But once they have done the evil voice, you know it is the murderer.
No! I really don't know how this could have happened, Monsieur Varron.
No, too late. We've all heard you do the evil voice. Only murderers do that.
Alas, she is now sexier and she was smoking a cigarette from an evil cigarette holder. That's a sketch from that Mitchell and Webb look where they're doing the Poirot confession sequence. But anyway, whenever someone is doing a sneer...
Yes.
You know, when they're talking, drives me crazy. It's such a forced evil thing. Like, you know, the scarier thing is when someone is talking about their crimes like they're talking about shopping. You know, like it's really normal. And they're not like proud of themselves or anything. Like, you know, that kind of... So I don't mean to say that she's a bad actress in general. I mean that her acting in this particular sequence is a little...
Yeah, she's overshot just a little bit.
She's not Nicolas Cage.
You have everything now.
No. You have, my dear. By your father's will. I get everything in the event of your death.
Watch your head. You're just in time to get your head cut off.
Is it a commitment thing? Because you're always hearing actors talking about if you're going to do something like that, then you have to commit to it fully and you have to buy into it.
I don't know. I love everything that's going on around it, and she's just kind of wandering around. It's just like, oh, shut up already.
Don't lose your head.
Yes.
She brought it on herself. By helping you and your master. You're just in time to have your head cut off. Watch your head.
Shut up.
Yes, quiet. But then, you have the whole windmill sequence and the...
Oh my god, the design there of that whole thing. And
the bat wings.
The bat wings of the...
and it's all worn and falling apart. And
such good set design.
The last thing that I've written here is that there's lots of fainting in this movie.
Yeah. Mostly on the part of Johnny Depp.
Well, it's like Johnny Depp and I think Katrina goes like twice. So.
I think she only found... twice.
Yeah, once in the church.
Yeah.
And then again...
when she sees a horseman.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Christopher Walken. I'm sure if it was anybody else, it probably would have been fine, but he does look like he's in pantomime makeup.
He is absolutely out of place. He is the definition of out of place.
Anyway, I thought that bore mentioning, or maybe it was just a bore.
Bore indeed.
Yes. And now we're going to go over to trivia. Waiting for you. No? No trivia corner?
No.
Why not? What's the matter with you?
Nah, I don't want to do it today. I'm on me break.
All right, we'll finish your fag and then let's get on with it. Oh, for God's sake.
Trivia corner. Well, no, I'll do it properly. Go on, do it again. Do it.
Trivia
corner. God, you're on in a strop today, aren't you?
It were only after being cast as the Headless Horseman that Christopher Walken admitted to director Tim Burton that he actually did not know how to ride horse.
How to ride horse.
How to ride horse. It's happening again. Johnny Depp did all of his own stunts for the final scene where he is dragged by the horse. Mm-hmm. He had bulletproof clothing underneath his wardrobe.
Yeah, apparently so padded that they could step on him.
Oh, the other thing is, by the way, Johnny Depp got... I remember seeing in the documentary that Tim Burton enjoyed torturing him by spraying blood at him whenever he could. Which every time I see that scene where he's hacking at the
I'm thinking of that
tree
too.
branch,
I can see Tim Burton
Tim
laughing.
Burton is off screen flinging blood at his face.
There's a thing on YouTube, like a featurette, where they're talking about it, and you can see him laughing off to the side.
Johnny Depp initially found the idea of Christina Ricci being his love interest in this film to be rather odd, seeing as he's known her since she was 9 years old. They first met on the set of Mermaids, as Depp was dating Winona Ryder at the time.
Wow.
There is quite an age gap there. I think she was, what was she, about 19 or something when she was in this movie, and he was already like 30 odd, yeah. It's, I don't know, there's a bit of an age gap there. Historically, Ichabod Crane was a very unattractive man. Johnny Depp offered to add prosthetics to his face to make himself look ugly, but director Tim Burton wanted to base the character on Crane's more unattractive personality traits, his reported squeamishness and eccentricity, which does come through in certain scenes. I noticed a lot more sort of heroism in this movie than I really noticed before, mainly because we talked about it.
Yeah.
There's quite a few moments like he, getting up on the chair and when the spider appears. Yeah. There's the...
It's just a spider.
Kill it! Kill it! No, stun it!
He was a horseman, a dead one. Headless. And then he fainted.
You do not know because you're not there.
It was a headless horseman.
You must not excite yourself.
But it was a headless horseman.
Of course it was. That's why you're here.
No, you must believe me. It was a horseman, a dead one. Headless.
I know.
You don't know because you were not there. It's all true.
Well, of course it is. I told you. Everyone told you.
I saw him.
There's a lot of fainting, whatever, but like the more he does that, the more it sort of accentuates his more heroic qualities because he sort of barrels through, even though he's incredibly squeamish and whatever, and he needs to do an autopsy on the Widow Winship or on Jonathan Masbeth or whatever.
Yeah, he really doesn't like blood, but he
powers through. He powers through. So he is more of a heroic character than the one in the story and in
for shizzle.
In the cartoon and more than probably
also a schoolmaster in the
the horse that Ichabod Crane rides provided a lot of amusement for the cast and crew because it was extremely flatulent. That means it farted a lot. Tim Burton included scenes as an homage. It's written here as an homage because it's homage to Disney's animated version of the Sleepy Hollow Tale, featured in The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. These include the scene in which Ichabod Crane crosses the covered bridge and hears the frogs underneath croaking Ichabod and Headless Horseman. The following chase sequence where Ichabod is run down and unhorsed, apparently by the Headless Horseman, and the moment in the climactic chase scene in which Ichabod runs into a tree limb, is thrown through the air, and ends up landing on the horseman's horse backwards. At the start of the three-way axe battle with Ray Park, Johnny Depp and Casper Van Dien broke the index finger of his left hand. Although it was extremely painful, he carried on without telling anyone, as he didn't want his part cut short.
It would be extremely painful.
You're a big guy. The exteriors were shot with a blue filter, so for the blood to appear red, the liquid used had to be bright orange.
I remember you telling me that.
That's also in the featurette.
Wait, hang on. Yeah. Here we get a chance to talk about the nice brother that you used to be. Mm-hmm. Because I think that you didn't give me a hard time about the fact that I was really frightened by the movie. Mm-hmm. And I seem to remember you coming into my room later and sort of being like, did it really frighten you? And I was like, yeah. And you said, well, what if I tell you a little bit about how they made it? And then you told me about the orange blood thing. And how it was like, it's just a filter. It's not really red.
Yeah, it looks like carrot juice.
And I was like, oh, okay. And that did help a little.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's a nice thing. For the listener who made it all the way here, there's one.
The crew of the movie built the small town of Sleepy Hollow. I love this. Built the small town of Sleepy Hollow, complete with rooms, floors, and stairs. The town was dismantled after filming was completed. That's
what
shit.
A shame.
No, because like they do that a lot. They take down sets, but if a movie's successful, especially 20, 30 odd years later, people are going to want to visit.
And if you made the whole... It's not just a set. They made the whole flipping thing.
Yeah. I would have loved to have visited that.
Yeah.
The fake forests built on the sound stages became, quote-unquote, real forests by the time they wrapped. They became infested with bugs and birds, said Tim Burton. The sounds of birds in this movie are often that of real uninvited creatures that had made their homes in the trees.
It's really funny because it's not actually... designed to look like a forest. It's like this very oppressive clump of, very scary looking trees.
Yeah, it's so hyper realistic, and
really,
also the lightning,
really stylized.
The lightning that goes on every time the horseman comes. It's not realistic either. It's supposed to be hyper stylized.
Oh no, I'm saying it as a good thing, not as
no. I'm saying like it's
everything's very stylized.
Yeah, it's just funny that that happened. The scene where Crane sees a spider crawling along the floor of his room was devised on the spot. I always find this hilarious. Somebody, I don't have an identifier for who said the quote here, but it says here, we always seem to have spiders and bugs on the set, although I don't quite remember why, but every day there was a guy there with bugs, so one day we just decided to use some. Who was the guy, the creepy bastard with all the spiders hanging out on the set, uninvited? Ray Park, who created his best-known role as Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It was in the same year, in 1999, was the fighting and stunt doubles for the Headless Horseman. Tim Burton credits Park with giving the character a great sense of movement. The character doesn't have a head, so you don't have much else to go on. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The windmill was too large to be constructed on a soundstage because it was over 5 stories high. The sails alone weighed over 2 tons.
Wow.
So they didn't just build the entrance and a miniature. They built the whole thing. Brilliant. While director Tim Burton admired Andrew Kevin Walker's original script, Andrew Kevin Walker, for reference, wrote 7.
Okay.
He hired the famed playwright and Academy Award-winning screenwriter Tom Stoppard as script doctor. Stoppard did an uncredited rewrite to tone down the violence of Walker's script. I hate to think what it was before. The Scarecrow, when Peter Van Garrett, played by Martin Landau, gets his head cut off by the Headless Horseman, is the opening pumpkin and Scarecrow from The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, cool.
In order to escape the Headless Horseman, Ichabod sets fire to the windmill. Instead of simply burning down, the windmill explodes in a huge fireball. This would be due to a dust explosion, which is when fine powder suspended in the air like flour is ignited. In the US alone, there have been nearly 100 people killed as the result of dust explosions in flour mills.
The more you know. Wow.
And that was Trivia Corner. All right, your turn. I've got nothing left. I'm done.
And I'm spent.
I'm going down to the pub.
VFX Hattic.
Already you're not going with "Come with me" and step
Oh,
into
right,
the
that's already. Come with
mind-tingling
me. Just put it in.
Come with me and step into the spine-tingling confusion known as Si's rambling cavalcade of nonsense.
Director Tim Burton asked ILM's Jim Mitchell, who brought CG Martians to life in Mars Attacks, to oversee Sleepy Hollow's visual effects. To minimize ILM's workload, Mitchell also initially lobbied to do the Headless Horseman the old-fashioned way, which is to have, fake shoulders put on top of an actor's shoulder, and then it sort of sits on top of
Which is
their
exactly
head.
what Brom Bones did in the movie.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that the reason that sequence is so important to have is that it really highlights why they couldn't have done it the old-fashioned way.
Right.
Because the proportions look wrong.
Right.
His arm is basically coming out of where his stomach would supposedly be.
Right.
So the anatomy doesn't work.
He would look like SpongeBob SquarePants.
And it looks off no matter who you are. If you understand anatomy or no, you're looking at it and you're going, it looks off.
Right.
So that when it's revealed that it's sort of like these sandbags on Brombone's shoulders, you kind of go, oh, okay. But then when you see the Headless Horseman later on, you can really respect the amount of work they put into that effect.
Do you see the join there? Because I don't, and I've seen this movie so many times, and I'm a
nitpicker. I saw
nitpicker.
it in one shot in the... two shots. One shot in the fight with Brombones and Johnny Depp. Mm-hmm. And Ichabod Crane, right. And another shot in the where he's murdering the family, where he's fighting with the father.
What do you see there?
So I can see the collar is CG. Like I can see the collar replacement.
Okay.
So let me talk a little bit about what they did.
No, because like in 1999, I would never have noticed anything like that. I think it's like almost seamless.
It is almost seamless. I only because I know it's there.
Oh yeah, of course.
So they eventually decided that the Headless Horseman would be an actual person riding the horse and flinging his axe around, except that they would just digitally erase his head, which we said Ray Park had a blue hood on, right?
Right. And nowadays they would have just had the horse and the rider be CG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim Mitchell did Mars Attacks, right?
Right.
There's a lot of visual effects shots in that movie. The visual effects shots in this film are, there aren't that many. There's somewhere between 150 to 300 shots. Jim Mitchell, who was visual, he was supervising those VFX. He says there were 300 VFX shots just for the Headless Horseman. Either way, that isn't a lot compared to the odd Marvel movie that's got somewhere between 2,500 to 3,000 VFX shots, which means that the majority of shots in this film are all practical. Mitchell sort of divvied up the Horseman shots between ILM and London's computer film company, marking the first time an ILM effects artist was simultaneously supervised at another visual effects facility, right? So despite the different locations, you can really not see the joins very well. Like it's really very consistent. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit about the process of how they removed the head. First, they removed the head, obviously using keying, getting rid of the blue, and then there's a hole in the footage, right? And then you've got...
You'd have to have a plate, right?
Right, so a little bit difficult when there's all this fog rolling around and there's camera movement. They're not all lockdown shots. So they had to go in and they had to find like parts of the plate that they could repaint in. In certain sequences, if Ray Park's head passed over Johnny Depp in like a fight, they had to
go in frame by frame.
Replace his head, right? Taking from,
replace Johnny Depp's head.
Yeah.
In 1999.
Yeah, and we're not talking about CG elements. We're talking about... so let me read this to you.
Talking about compositing, because people think like if you put like a green glove or a green hood on somebody that like, you can just key it out and it disappears. But people don't take into account what happens to the background.
Right, exactly. So, you always see like, oh, there's, we've got Andy Serkis in this suit. Right, and he's that.
We'll just take him out and replace him with an animated character.
They had to shoot those twice. They had to shoot every Gollum shot twice, right? Where they would have the actors acting again, doing exactly the same thing without him there,
right?
And then they could put in the CG version of him, where
he was there for reference.
He was there for reference, exactly.
And the same thing that they did with Roger Rabbit, where they used models and whatever for eye lines.
Yeah, exactly. They never shot anything with motion control, so there was a lot of like handmade 2D tracking to match everything up and frame by frame paint work to replicate the backgrounds. That's a lot of work, right? Think about how many shots in this movie have a foggy or smoky background. And they had to, like, those are really hard elements to match up.
I would say anything exterior.
Yeah, everything, right? So equally tricky shots were fight scenes in which the faces of actors Johnny Depp or Castor Van Dien were blocked by the horseman's blue hood. They had Depp go through the same actions without the horseman in the shot and insert his head into any frames where the horseman's head was blocking it.
Now I have to look at this frame by frame.
The CG artist would then put the collar back on,
right,
in order to complete the effect. That's what sells it, because if in all the shots where you see him from any angle, right, you've got this, you can see that there's a collar there. They had to replace that and texture it and light it and match move it. It's really good. So the fact that I saw it in 2 shots is only A, because I knew it was there, and B, because there's a budget and there's time limit and you can't.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's really cool. Now, practical effects, there are numerous practical effects. Some of my favorite ones, I love that Tim Burton asked that when someone gets decapitated, that their head should spin, right? So they had fake heads made of the different actors.
They're really good.
They're really very realistic. The dead look that they give to the eyes, you know how they did that, where they make it look a little glazed over?
Right.
Really, really good. So you've got these bodies, right, with a kind of motor in the neck area.
Yep.
And then it spins around and around and around, then the head falls off. And then they also had these mechanical bodies that at the press of a button would first of all buckle at the knees and then the ankles and then have it fall over. It's that shot where the magistrate gets killed.
Yeah.
The head rolls. You see that whole... Like, there are several times where you see heads, like, spin around. The second one where I really noticed it was Michael Gambon's head also spins off. So there's so much practical work that's being done. And the fact that, if you think about this whole thing we've talked about with Ray Park, is that they were just replacing the head, right? Like, it's a lot and a lot of work, but it's in support of the practical effect.
Right.
They wanted to go practical and they used visual effects to enhance it.
Right.
It is, once again, the same flipping line that I say in every single VFX.
Using the tools to realize the story.
Exactly. To bring this thing to life. And if anything, it brings you closer to it instead of disconnecting you from it.
The only really overtly CG shot in the movie that I noticed anyway was the shot where Christopher Walken puts his head back on.
Yeah.
Well, when he goes from Ray Park to Christopher Walken, he puts the skull on the neck, and then the sort of flesh grows around it, and he becomes Christopher Walken. You were very excited about that. You want to tell me a little bit about what excited you?
This is 1999.
Right.
Do you see how many layers are going on there?
So that's another thing. Do you remember? Did you see Hollow Man?
Hollow Man? Yeah. So that effect also gets me super hard. Like, I'm not joking. Like, there is, I think, something to be marveled at, right? When you think about the person or the team working on this, their understanding of anatomy and musculature.
Right.
And in this one, the veins. Also in Hollow Man, right?
Right.
And, you know, you've got, like, the muscles pulling up onto the skull, which is then, you know, covered by some tissue.
Right.
And then you've got veins intertwining with the rest of it. Hair sprouting out of random spots. His tongue comes, out of his mouth. And then there's, like, a shot where, you know, his eyes and his tongue are, like, you know, sticking out like that. It's a little bit of a gag shot, right?
Right.
But the transition is extreme, because you think about the time, they couldn't really make a CG Christopher Walken.
Right.
But at the end of that, if you pause it, I think, right at the end of that CG shot, before it cuts to Ichabod and Katrina and then cuts back and it's Christopher Walken, they get pretty fucking close.
Right.
without having actually filled in the skin on his face.
I think that ILM were improving it with each consecutive movie.
Yeah.
You've got The Mummy. There was a lot of that stuff going on in The Mummy, and then you've got Hollow Man. You got this. Like there was a lot of that kind of sort of.
Was Hollow Man after this or before this?
I think after, but you can never tell.
Such an impressive shot.
You can never tell what they were working on when. So something may have gotten released in 99 and then another released in 2000, but ILM may have been working on the effects before.
Can you describe the shot for the listeners in Hollow Man?
The shot in Hollow Man is
where he's on the table.
It's when he turns invisible. There's two of these sequences. There's one with the gorilla where the gorilla is brought back from invisibility.
Yeah, and so you
see the skeleton and the veins and the nerves and everything kind of building up on top of itself.
The different nerve systems, and you can see them firing off, and
then they do it in reverse with Kevin Bacon when he gets injected with the serum, and he starts to like disappear, and you see all the skin like coming off.
If you've never seen the movie, highly recommend it. But just go onto YouTube and look at those shots. Just search for Hollow Man in turning invisible or
Paul
whatever.
Verhoeven actually hates that movie, but and it is kind of exploitative in a way. But I think it's also by design. It's like it's not something to be taken seriously.
No,
but yeah. But I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a good
really clever VFX shots in that movie. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm done. I'm spent.
Okay. Well, that were fun. That were fun. Do you have any ideas of what you'd like to do next? I mentioned something yesterday.
I'd really like to do What's Our Bond Number, if I'm being honest.
You want to do What's Our Bond Number?
I kind of do, but you said Idle Hands.
I said Idle Hands because we want, as I said in our intro,
it's spooky season.
It's spooky season. I want to try and get as many of the movies that we haven't done yet.
Because you like spook.
I love spook. So yeah, as many as possible in before October 31st. But honestly, life happens, shit happens. You never know. So we'll try.
We'll do our burst.
And we'll try and do What's Our Bond Number at some point in the near future.
Right. Well, I'm very pleased that we got to watch this today. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
And I hope I shall have you again soon.
Yes. Well, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye. What's our seat number?
Yes! Fucking please!